Hey guys, I'm the Zam. Welcome to the first progress report video for 2025. The plan is to get these out on the first weekend of every month, but we'll see how that goes. It's January 30th as I'm recording this. I looked at the time of the current game that I'm playing, and I won't be able to finish it, or at least I don't think I will, before February, so I'm going to go ahead and just call it here and just report on the games that I have done. If you don't know what this is all about, I made a minute-long video, short version. I'm practicing my Japanese by playing video games in Japanese. Today, we're just going to focus on the games that we played in January of 2025. I'm just going to yap at you for however long this is going to be. I'm not going to put footage of the games. I don't know. I got to figure out. I need a guy to sort of tell me how to sort of negotiate this. I'm always super paranoid about putting footage in these of games because someone out there is going to be trigger happy on the copyright claims, and I don't want to mess around with that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and I guess get started. So for January, we're going to see two games, 2.5 I guess. The first one is Vandal Hearts: The Lost Ancient Civilization. I think I should have written the Japanese title. I wrote the English title. I think it's Mandaru Hatsu, something what's this? Bunmei Kodai Bunmei, I think is what it is. Yeah, this one didn't take very long. It's 3 days. It was recommended to me by a good friend of mine. It's a cute little game from the middle of the PS1 era. It's a turn-based strategy game similar to Fire Emblem. As you can guess from the title, there's a lost civilization, and they seem to have borrowed the Nazca lines, the symbols for it. Looks really good. The graphics remind me of a number of SNES games remastered to the PS1. It's kind of Tales of Fantasia and Tactics Ogre come to mind. I guess more specifically, it's more like a Tactics Ogre sort of deal. As far as the gameplay goes, the combat's straightforward. The one thing to get used to with archers is that they attack like rooks in this game. Which is it's just something you gotta start remembering because you don't think about it until I moved my character and then now I'm kind of committed. Mages are pretty strong in this game. Around Act 2 or 3, you start getting these huge AoE mage spells, and by the end of the game, you're practically hitting a third of the map. But if you're in the zip code of the boss, you're probably hitting every enemy on the map. Weapons triangle, there is one. I don't know how I feel about it. It definitely matters. But I don't find myself in too many opportunities to really take advantage of it. The warriors are supposed to beat archers. By the time the warriors get to the archers died 2 turns ago to the double AoE mages. And maybe a flying unit to finish the job. The warriors, for the most part, were used to hold the line, but they weren't my main damage source after about halfway, after I got those AoE mages. Your units don't die if they fall in battle, they only retreat, and the penalty for them retreating is just you get less money in the reward screen. Frankly speaking, I never had money issues, and I definitely sent my mages in like IEDs a few times. Funnily enough, they never retreated for it. They actually survived. They retreated once in the final battle. In the final battle, I did lose one. 4 warriors that kept eating the enemy attacks and getting forced to retreat. I don't know. The music is adequate, but the tracks are pretty short, so they loop pretty soon. I don't think they were annoying, but they weren't very interesting either. The vocal tracks are really good. The vocal track it was really good. I actually went up and checked it online at one point, added that to a playlist. The ocarina tune is very nice. The ocarina tune, it's kind of a motif throughout the entire game. Did we ever really cash in on that one, though? I don't think we did. I think I might do a replay. I didn't do a 100%. They're these little special, my friend told me, they're these special keys, ancient treasure keys or whatever. And I gotta collect all 6 or all 8 or however many there are and turn them in right before the last battle. And I didn't do that because I didn't do it starting at map 1, which means you need all of them. So if you didn't do it on map 1, you got to replay the whole game. And I think I was all the way into Act 2 at that point. So I was not worth it. As far as the story goes, it's, no surprises, really. It's pretty straightforward. At the beginning of the game, Lean or Reen, I don't know how you're supposed to read that. She kind of just thrusts herself on the party. And I remember the first thing I'm thinking at the moment is, this individual will betray us in the future, right? And Guess what? She does. When Erina gives Rina her pendant, these are two different characters. Erina and Rina, two different. One's got an eh in the middle, right? I remember thinking, what if Rina is just short for Erina, and Erina is just that girl in the future? But that would require her to fall through time. And then in the literal next scene, she falls through time to confirm it. Man, he should have just asked the party if he could at that time, but he might have been alone, and maybe he thought that just sending the girl back in time would have been sufficient, since he didn't know that the girl was still in the party, even if he sent how do I word this? If he sent the child, we have a child and an adult, okay? If he sent the child back in time, maybe he thought, okay, I sent the child back in time, they ain't got anyone that can speak the language. They're done. They gotta go home. But he didn't know that the girl was in the party as an adult. So, I don't know. There were quite a few Luke, I am your father moments. We had Red Ram. Red Ram was Rado's brother. Rado, by the way, apparently his name in the English is like Grog Drinkwater, which is just... Grog Drinkwater. I love it. The businessman was Jose's father. Erina was Rina. That counts. Ares was Dolph's father. Dorufu. Who was Dorufu again? I don't even remember. I don't even remember who he was. All I wrote was that Ares was Doru's father. Dang. But yeah, that's like 1 for each of the 6 acts. So yeah, crazy. Betrayals abound, fight the evil empire. Yeah, it's a JRPG. What I would have liked a bit more was context on the Lost Civilization. They seem to primarily function as kind of like a MacGuffin, more of a set piece, I guess. There's really not much else to it. There's more that could be done with that. Maybe the stuff in the Trials of Torora, that sort of that thing I mentioned earlier, that I didn't get the keys for. Maybe that has some more on the Anxious Civilization. But again, I couldn't do it. I didn't get the keys. Can't go back and get the keys. They're just gone. I would have also preferred if some story-relevant characters actually died. Like, who even died in this game? General Valesco, Kane and his crew. Who's Kane again? Kane, yeah. Kane's that arrogant guy. The village elder, that person got, Anakin in the Sand People. Yeah, that's what happened to the elder. The evil emperor died. Dorufu died as well. I think that's it. With the potential exception of General Valesco and the elder, the rest of the people here that are mildly story relevant, right? Kane, evil emperor, Dolph. These guys are bad guys. So anytime someone looks to be taking a fatal blow in a cutscene, the party just says bring them to a safe area and their wounds are treated. So there's no commitment. This is like one of my things, right? You gotta commit. I said this in my Sakuna review, right? You gotta commit to these sorts of things. I guess, what's his face died? Maybe? No, I think he was fine. Anyway, overall, if you haven't played Vandal Hearts, I do think it's definitely a game worth playing. Very easy game at base, very accessible. No RNG other than blocking, maybe. So it's also a routable game if you want to do speedrunning or various challenge runs. As far as the Japanese goes, I do think it's pretty readable for beginners. I, for the most part, didn't muck around with cutscenes. The narration part, rather. I used OCR to get kanji that I can't read, and we had a hard enough time getting it to work with the speech boxes alone, so the narration parts where the text just kind of gets curly and harder to read, yeah, it's out of there. I added less than 50 words to Anki from this game, so up to 20 of the words that I did add, maybe 20% or N2 or higher. Make of that what you will, I guess. I'm gonna move on to, my friend recommended that I play Shadow Hearts, so I went looking to the wiki page and saw Kudelka listed as a prequel for it. So I played Kudelka. Kudelka's next, not Shadow Hearts. So before I play these games, I always check time to complete, so I sort of have a feel for how long I can expect to be on the game in particular. The caveat, of course, is that these games are being played by people that actually understand the language they're playing in. So I sort of just multiply by, 1.5, 2, or something like that to get my expected time to beat, which for this game is apparently going to be less than 20 hours. So yeah, about 2 weeks I expected. I did it in 3 days, so yeah. Zam from the future says the game took 22 hours. Yeah, 22 hours. It's a little bit longer than what I guesstimated, but we'll talk about it. So overall, what's kind of interesting is that despite the game, this is the Japanese version of the game, right? The dialogue is all recorded in English. So it's while simplistic, the characterization of each of these characters is really good. And it's really in there when the voice acting comes through. Kudelka's very sassy, but she's kind of earned that sassiness by being brought up in her circumstances. Paints her relatively grim outlook. Edward is motivated by wealth, and he has his own baggage, but I think at his core, he's probably a good person, maybe, I don't know. Edward's also very pragmatic. So there's this one point where he kills a man after the man has surrendered, because leaving the man alive is a liability. Even if he's not currently a threat. And then we have James. James is the priest in the crew. He's kind of a jerk. He makes presuppositions of others, assumes they are right. He assumes that the presuppositions are right. Even when the evidence to counter it is brought up to him, he generally speaks down to everyone else. And even when he isn't speaking down in words, he's often speaking down in tone. So I guess later we find that he sort of had to find meaning in something after losing his love, so he turned to God. He cites the lines, but sometimes I wonder if he's truly believing in it, or if it's just sort of his coping mechanism for losing the woman he loved. So, I don't know. To say the correct words, to ward the bad thoughts away sort of thing. One thing I definitely need to praise is the enemy design in this game. We've got range, we got bugs, we got plants, we got armors, we got furniture. It's great. Every enemy looks gross in its own way, and I love it. There aren't too many enemies in the game. They're all varieties of gross. It's great. As far as the gameplay goes, a lot of this feels like experimentation. A lot of weapons you can level up, and spells you can also level up. You want to unlock a new save point, you're going to have to beat a boss. That's novel. Though the boss might be a bit of an exaggeration. While they are tougher than normal enemies, they just weren't that much tougher, which is kind of odd, since it seems to only really serve as a barrier to act the saving. Yeah, it's really only a barrier to saving. I don't know why it's there. I guess it's how we're tracking progress to the game. It's a very easy game. The game wants you to beat it. By the end of the game is tossing you level up items like, please beat the damn game already. Why are you still here? Let's talk music. So most of the time you only hear music in cutscenes or battle. There aren't too many cutscenes. There are a lot of battles. Now, the battle music isn't bad, but there are a lot of battles. As far as the story goes, Kudelka finds herself at an abandoned monastery. She finds herself under attack, and a dying thief gives her his gun. After the threat's dealt with, she and the thief join up to see what's going on at the monastery. They find a priest. He joins up too. Priest is on a secret mission from the Vatican to get the emigre document, which is said to contain secrets on bringing the dead to life. James's childhood friend Patrick seems to have tried to resurrect his wife Elaine. He was successful, but he only brought back her body, so her spirit's still begging for her body to be destroyed. The body's taken over the monastery, which it seems it threw through the Tree of Life, maybe? I don't know. I don't know why the tree's there, to be honest. Maybe it's the reason that there's so many monsters. Seems Elaine's body's just killing everything that enters her domain except the caretakers? What, were they too old? Were they sufficiently far that the monsters were weak enough to handle with the shotgun? Anyway, you kill the body, and it falls burning into the burning Tree of Life, and that's GG. Overall, there were some notable scenes in the game. After the gargoyle splits the party, Kudelka's captured, and she's going to be killed by caretaker Ogden. Bessie happens to be in the corner with a shotgun ready to do her husband in. That's convenient. She spares you, explains Ogden's backstory, and commits honorable Sudoku. What is even happening right now? It's very clumsy exposition, but I guess now we know the couple's not the problem. This Patrick fellow, that guy is. One thing that kind of amused me is that there's a puzzle where you need to stand on a scale and balance a counterweight. And the memo says 70 kilograms, so I put in 70. No luck. And since Kudelka was on the scale, I then guessed I had to subtract her weight from the 70 kilograms. Started checking her stat card to see if her weight was on it, but it wasn't. But I just guesstimated, she's about a 45. And so I put in the 25, and I chuckled when it was the correct answer. And that's when I remembered there was a scale at the start of the area, so I went back to check if I was right, and I was! One thing I am grateful for is that you aren't required to see the answer beforehand. Like, you know how in games where even if you know the answer, you aren't allowed to just sort of guess it. You have to find the hint that the devs left in, which trips a flag, which then allows you to solve the puzzle. I guessed 45, and we were good to go. So I did step on the scale when I entered the room, so that could trip the flag even if I never looked at Kudelka's weight. Something here with the translation. It's just something I noticed, alright? So I mentioned here that the voice acting is in English with Japanese subtitles. During the fireplace scene, I was amused that the word gypsy was censored. And I realized it was Gypsy a little too late. Kudelka said her people call themselves Roma. And I'm like, oh, those are the Gypsies. I knew what they were talking about at that point. But I missed the word gypsy in the subtitle if she ever used it in the Japanese. And after that, she used the word atashitachi to refer to the gypsies. So that's that. And my last save was before that gargoyle fight. And I grinded like 15 levels to do that fight because I thought it was the required way to go back up and get the sulfuric acid, even though it wasn't, and I didn't. And that took a while, so I wasn't reloading that save. I'm just going to assume she said something like atashitachi or tashi no minzoku or something like that effect in the Japanese. But they're clearly trying to avoid it. Like, I later noticed a mismatch when Edward says, it must be the gypsy in you. And the subtitles say, それが孤独だったからのかな, which I read as maybe it's your loneliness, which I guess maybe is sort of enigmatic loneliness in there. So yeah, the reason I bring it up, because I know, it's a certain irony, right? So people usually complain about games receiving poor localizations. We just want the Japanese translated, right? But someone goes in and makes it culturally palatable, if you even want to call it that. Yet here we are, OG version, recording in English, censoring the word gypsy, and then the subtitles in Japanese don't even match. At the end of the day, Kudelka is a story about how we define the meaning in our lives, right? So James could not marry the one he loved, so he found a certain meaning in religion. Kudelka was abandoned by her family due to her abilities, so she finds meaning in helping others, even if she is incredibly sassy about how she does it from time to time. Edward defies the expectations of his family and defines his own life, finding meaning in the poetry and fantasy. To an extent, even Roger Bacon. Have I mentioned Roger Bacon yet? He's a mummy guy we found forever ago. He finds meaning in his life by acquiring knowledge. So yeah, I guess this is about where we start wrapping things up on Kudelka. Is Kudelka worth playing? No. Maybe. Asterisk. Not without a means to speed up the gameplay. The waiting times on some of these battle animations is agonizing. Loading screens can also eat up a lot of time if you accidentally walk into a trigger. The gameplay is yet to be refined. The story is fine. The voice acting is hammy. I love this stuff. It's great. It's a very short game despite being on 4 discs. I guess the CG cutscenes took up a lot of space. I don't know. If you don't needlessly grind for hours, it's definitely something you can knock out in a weekend, but I'm going to err on the side of caution and not recommend it. So, that's everything we were able to complete in the month of January. We started Shadow Hearts on January 10th, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of an update on Shadow Hearts before we wrap this one up. Shadow Hearts, right? So, Kudelka is the prequel to Shadow Hearts, so I started playing Shadow Hearts second. That makes sense. But I think it was what was the third week of, it was January 12th. Yeah, it was January 12th. When I don't know what happened, I fell into the Path of Exile pit again. I think Path of Exile 2 came out, and I didn't pay for the pre-order, the beta test, or whatever you want to call whatever they did. So I decided to play regular Path of Exile. And that took up like a whole week because once you start, you can't stop. It's an addicting game. We got back on track. Unfortunately, on the 25th. On the 25th, January 25th, I fell ill and it became very difficult to focus for extended periods of time. Even now, I'm still kind of feeling it, but it's not so bad. I can do my thing. That's where we are for now. I'm like 25, 30 hours into Shadow Hearts, which I'd say I'm a little past halfway point. So yeah, I'll talk to you a bit more about that next time. And in addition, we'll do whatever I decide to do after that. I think I'm doing Kuon. I should say properly. Kuon. From Software, Onmyoji, thingamajigger. So yeah, that'll do for today. Yeah, if you have any recommendations, anything you'd like me to try out, go ahead and toss them into the chat box there. If you are interested in learning Japanese, or sharing this journey with me, should we do a Discord server? We'll think about it. But if you are interested in, studying Japanese, casually through games, I'm going to drop an invite to the Kotoba Miners in the description. And, of course, you'd be more than welcome to join some of my friends over there. And that's it. Thank you for watching or listening. And, yeah, I will catch you again in the February video, which will come out in March.